Hello, my name's Joseph O'Leary.
I'm Samir Aslam.
Alright, calm down.
Oh, sorry, I was excited.
This is Star Wars Podcast. How you doing?
Why he sounds like an emo today? You okay? Do you need to talk about anything? What's wrong, man? What's wrong? What is it?
I don't know, mate.
Oh, okay.
Hello everyone.
It's podcast day.
It's podcast day.
It's time to podcast.
We've been to see Star Trek Beyond.
We've come straight from there.
And this is a spoilerific review.
Oh.
We've recorded a non-spoiler review that's on another podcast.
That's from the future.
So goes into that one for non-spoilers.
That's with Star Wars Prime.
Yeah, so that's like it's like another timeline. Nero destroyed that podcast.
But made us watch.
Yeah, made us watch.
Stranded on an ice planet.
Stranded on a planet, made us watch. The podcast get destroyed. I have just watched my podcast get destroyed. Surely I would be emotionally compromised.
Oh boy.
So I saw the BFG.
No, you didn't. You're a liar.
I did. I saw the Big Friendly Giant.
Oh yeah.
That's what it stands for.
Wait, what? Wait.
Yeah.
What am I thinking of?
That's what BFG. Big Fuck Off Giant.
That's BFOG, isn't it?
No, that's Fuck Off's one word, isn't it?
Oh, sorry. Wait, isn't it?
Oh yeah, it's my last name.
Oh, all right.
Joe Fuck Off. Joe Fuckowski.
That's what everyone tells me.
Go Fuckowski, it's go. I saw BFG.
Yeah. What about it?
It was good.
It was good?
It was good.
You don't sound sold, or you sound like you're selling me at all.
I love Steven Spielberg. He's my favourite director.
I know you do.
I love Roald Dahl. He's my favourite author.
You like Mark Rylance?
I love Mark Rylance. I love him even more after this movie.
Oh yeah?
Yeah.
Was he a good buffer?
He was incredible.
Mm-hmm.
But the movie just felt a bit flat at times and was a bit boring in places.
Yeah.
The BFG is one of my least favourite books by Roald Dahl.
Okay.
The cartoon movie from years ago of David Jason as the BFG, I didn't really like that.
Yeah.
I saw it at the theatre once. That was good. That was probably the best version I've seen of it. But there were moments in this of just absolutely world-class filmmaking.
Yeah.
And Mark Rylance is just astonishing. He's believable.
Mm-hmm.
He feels like the BFG is a real thing.
Yeah. And
obviously a lot of the dialogue, a lot of the sort of things that he says is silly words because he doesn't remember what words are. And
like
he says
human being and
snozcumber and he says loads and loads of stuff. And every time I was just laughing. and to be honest, I don't think the movie is necessarily for me. I think it's more a film for kids. This feels like a Spielberg movie for the sort of new generation, or like the third or fourth generation of his career. Yeah, this is like the E.T. for now.
Do you think kids would love this film then?
I think my kids loved it.
Yeah.
They were so quiet and intent just watching it.
They were proper on it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought they were having a terrible time.
Okay.
And it turns out they were just
mesmerised.
Yeah.
Okay. That's good though.
But the thing about Steven Spielberg is, as a director, especially even for children, he's just so good at keeping people's attention. I took the kids to see Tintin years ago. Oh yeah. More for me than them. Yeah. And I loved it.
Yeah, I thought it was great.
They didn't think it was the best film ever or anything like that, but they didn't make a word, they didn't make a sound.
They didn't blink. Yeah.
The whole way through.
Yeah.
And it was only the second time they'd been to the cinema. Mm-hmm. So I was expecting them to be shuffling about and Daddy, man. Yeah. But they literally just watched it. Yeah. So, that's the beauty of Spielberg, man. He's for everyone, isn't he? Yeah. But there were moments in the movie that are genius. The little girl in it, I don't know her name.
She good?
Excellent. Yeah. You don't like little kids in movies, though, do you?
Yeah,
but she's sort of grown up. There's a line she says where there's some drunk people outside her orphanage at the start, and she's like, "Oi, you're bladdered." It was proper funny, man. Just hearing a little girl say the word bladdered made me laugh. But yeah, she was good. But a lot of the movie is just them. Jermaine Clement plays like the main villain. Yeah, he's great.
He's an even bigger giant.
Yeah, and there's other giants. And one of them is voiced by Bill Hader, but I don't know which one.
He's a lot of voice work these days, isn't he?
Bill Hader is amazing, and I was really, really excited for him and Jermaine Clement to be like bouncing off each other.
Then he did like the sound design for BB-8.
Well, he did the voice. There was two of him and someone else.
Yeah.
They did the which is awesome.
Yeah.
Bill Hader's great, man.
Yeah, he's awesome. Yeah, was he good in this film then? Yeah, he was.
Oh, I think I don't know who he was in it.
Oh, okay.
I don't get why he was in it.
Right.
I was watching it thinking, because obviously you can hear Jermaine Clement's voice, and he does most of the talking for the other giants.
Yeah.
So yeah, that disappointed me, but that's not the movie's fault. You know, Bill Hader just got a guest. It must be more of a guest spot.
Yeah, sure.
But people that reviewed the movie before I'd seen it, reviewers I trust, because I only really watched or listened to read reviews that
you like, and
they all say Bill Hader's the baddie, or Bill Hader and Jermaine Clement are the baddies.
Right.
And either they're just generalising, or they've been paid to say Bill Hader's in it, or they've just not been watching the movie.
Yeah.
Because like Bill Hader's not the main villain in the movie, and yet it's been sold as that by some reviewers. So that's disappointing, I've got to say. But no, I think that might be because some grown-ups who watch it might be at times bored. The middle section is a bit talky. You know, there's not a lot really going on.
Yeah.
And the first act and the final act are fantastic. The Rafe Spall's character has an accent that I just can't quite figure out what it's supposed to be.
Who does he play then?
He plays like the Queen's head butler.
Oh right, yeah.
And yet he sounds like he's trying to do an American accent.
Really?
Yeah, but then it's a really bad one.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, is he trying to do an English dialect of some kind? But it's horrendous. Like, and I love Rafe Spall.
Yeah, he's great. Yeah.
Rebecca Hall's in it. She's a great actress. She's hardly in it. So it's literally...
I love Rebecca Hall.
It's mostly a BFG movie. It's about him and the little girl. And their relationship is beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautifully told. The last shot of the movie, I won't say what it is, but I had to compose myself before I got up to get my stuff, because it really, really it was beautiful.
Yeah.
It made my eyes like water, like proper, welled up. But I just can't explain how great an actor Mark Rylance is.
Yeah, he's something else.
He brings the BFG to life.
Yeah.
Because the effects aren't as strong as I'd liked.
Okay.
Mocap and stuff.
Yeah.
But man, that guy is so incredible.
Yeah.
He's going to be in the next 3 Spielberg films that are lined up.
Yeah.
And Spielberg seems to have found a muse late in life.
Yeah.
He's also a guy who's in the later stages of his life.
Yeah.
It's not like a Scorsese, De Niro, Scorsese, DiCaprio.
They've grown together.
But they've just he's found this guy, man, and this guy is a beast.
Yeah.
But no, I recommend to watch it on his basis of his performance and the little girl's performance. But also, it's a great sort of fairy tale about friendship.
Yeah.
People being lonely and having no one and finding someone, which is what the movie's about.
Yeah, sure.
So yeah, I talked about it as longer than I would have liked.
But you recommend it, yeah, overall?
I recommend it. I do recommend it. Like I say, it's probably not going to be for everyone. I can see how some people would find it a little bit too over talkative.
Yeah.
You know, but no, I recommend it. It's a great movie. I mean, it's just, you compare it to Spielberg's other works and other Roald Dahl movies or other Roald Dahl works. You know, and it's not in the top echelon.
Yeah. And
to some people, it might be disappointing.
Yeah, I mean that's probably a testament to what Steven Spielberg is and what he can do. Is that even a film that's not in his top echelon, you know, he's close to about 30 films now at the minute. Even in a film that's not considered one of his best, there's still a lot of really good stuff to be had from what I'm hearing, from what you're telling me as well. Anyway, that you know, he still has that Spielberg magic, man. He can still
some of the energy in his filmmaking and some of his visuals.
Yeah.
Is just breathtaking.
It's the same with Tintin. Again, I mean, that had some mixed reviews. Not everyone was crazy about it, but there was stuff in there. There's a few set pieces and a few really sort of heartfelt moments that were just absolutely Spielberg, nailing it. You know, when he's at his best. Spielberg's
amazing at sort of casting films as well.
Yeah,
it's very rare that you watch a movie by Spielberg with
if anyone's been miscast or yeah.
The one movie I probably argue was probably Tom Hanks in Bridge of Spies. I think Spielberg misunderstood that character a little bit.
Yeah.
And he saw he wanted an everyman to play him.
Yeah.
Whereas
Tom Hanks is too big.
Just too much of an everyman in the movie.
Yeah.
His performance just wasn't the right tone. But Tintin especially, he cast Simon Pegg and Edgar Wright as Thompson and Thompson.
Yeah.
You know, he got Cornish and Edgar Wright to write it.
Yeah.
You know, this is a guy still knows his stuff now.
Yeah.
You know, and he's still, even like you say, even his lesser efforts are better than most of the shit that you see.
Yeah.
You know, compared to Alice in Wonderland, I mean, the new Alice in Wonderland and the first one. You know, it's just this is an aging guy towards the end of his career. He's just battering the modern sort of filmmakers of today.
Yeah.
So, yeah, BFG, Stranger Things, very Spielberg-esque. I've been led to believe.
It's quite a good tie-in, I suppose, because I've watched the Netflix original because there's not enough of those.
Yeah.
Called Stranger Things. Yeah, it's been doing really well. It's got quite a good buzz around it. I was really excited for this coming out. I've been hearing a lot of good things. The trailers look wicked to me, and yeah, it is a real like homage to the 80s Spielberg and that sort of. I think we've mentioned it before on I think it was on the X-Men Apocalypse cast, in terms of what Spielberg could kind of get away with in a big family film. He could make a really, really genuinely scary film at times.
Yeah, and still be a PG.
And still have keep that PG rating. And to me, Stranger Things does exactly that. You know, there are some things in that are genuine. It is a horror film at times. It is a flat horror film in certain scenes. But it still has, you know, at the end of the day, it's pretty much a story about a group of kids, friends that, you know, they're your nerdy kids. They're making because it's set in the 80s.
Yeah,
and their kids are still making Lord of the Rings jokes. You know, again, before it was turned into film, so
yeah,
they have to delve deep into nerdy sort of, you know, territory. They're playing Dungeons and Dragons at one point.
Yeah, I've heard that. Yeah,
yeah, and there's a scene, probably my favorite scene in the whole thing, and it's probably not anyone else's favorite scene. But you know, sometimes we really like scientific talk and like really when they really delve into it.
Yeah,
they're basically using compasses, because basically what happens is their friend goes missing. And once their friend gets missing, you know, that it's quite a small town, and they're all up in arms about this kid getting missing, because nothing ever really goes wrong in this little neighborhood. The kid goes missing, and then all this supernatural things starts to happen. You know, everyone starts seeing things, and other people start disappearing in a similar fashion. And then this girl turns up, and this girl has, you know, maybe she has, you know, some sort of special things to her. And this girl, you know, she's it seems like quite a Chronicle-esque type character. But yeah, it's really, really, really fascinating the way they kind of keep doing these flashbacks to her origin story, but at the same time moving the current day story going on. But yeah, these kids, they basically get all the compasses together, and they're just trying to talk about opening this gateway.
Yeah.
And it goes on for about 10 minutes, and the way they're all getting really excited, it's almost like the Goonies when they're working on their treasure map.
I've heard the Goonies is like one of the things it's been compared to.
Yeah, so it
like
is
that sort of Amblin sort of era.
Yeah,
movies.
so it is a really, really a massive throwback to those films like E.T., where it's like kids, you know, trying to work out what's going on, and
it's like a bit like what Super 8 was homaging.
Yeah, exactly. It's very similar to that. So you know, you mentioned Spielberg like that. It was almost like it's a bow down to sort of Spielberg and that sort of era of filmmaking, things like that. So it is definitely worth a watch. Only 8 episodes, which I think is great. You know.
Yeah, I like a short sort of like almost like an extended movie.
Yeah,
or like 3 movies.
Because, you know, some of these Netflix series, what seems to be the norm is either 13 episodes, 10 episodes, or 8. A couple of the most recent ones have done 8. I think with some series, 13 is too much. Like 13 hours can. I think this. You know, as much as I love Daredevil and Jessica Jones, I think they're more or less perfect. You could have done them in 10. You could have definitely done them in 10 episodes, and you know, because there are a couple of filler episodes and sort of where it slows down. Those are my favorite Netflix series on there. And then Narcos is 10, I believe, or 12, might even be 12. But yeah, you can cut it down to 10. So the fact this is in 8, and like you said, it's basically an 8-hour-long film. Each episode picks up directly from where the last one ends every single time.
Yeah.
You know, so it flows really nicely. There's no previously on Stranger Things. It doesn't stop the whole way through. And everyone in the show has a really, really interesting arc. Winona Ryder has a really, really great part. She plays the mum of the kid that's missing. And she goes all over the show. I mean, you know, she goes to like a grieving mum who's lost a kid, and then to a really determined mum, so she's going to find him. So her performance, she absolutely brings it. And the way it's shot again is absolutely beautiful. The effects are great. To say again, it's a Netflix original. There's some really, really good sort of CGI and practical effects going on. But I thoroughly recommend it if you've got a spare 8 hours.
I do want to watch it.
Yeah,
it's one of the few things that I do get excited about, you know, about a TV show. So yeah, let's talk about Star Trek Beyond.
Let's get into it.
So we talked about on the non-spoiler about the tone and about the direction. So let's just jump back onto that. This is really like a fun movie.
Real fun. Like it is absolutely great. I really think there is at least a few moments in there for everyone. Like whoever it is, if you've never seen a Star Trek film before, I genuinely think you can enjoy this one for what it is.
Yeah,
I think you can go
agree.
in there with no previous knowledge of the characters, history, anything. I think you can go in there, have fun with these characters. Maybe hopefully it will make you love them and go back and watch other ones. But you know, I feel like if this is the only Star Trek film you ever see, you won't be completely lost, and you'll be able to understand it for what it is. Because, like you said, at the end of the day, it's fun beginning to end.
Yeah. And the thing is, the original TV show had, it was all about fun. It was a lot of kooky episodes.
Yeah.
Explored crazy things. And it was all about adventure and friendship and camaraderie. And this movie does a great job of encapsulating all those things. I find. And I felt like, to me, that the movie is very much like an extended version of one of the original, sort of episodes.
Yeah.
So it feels like an episode more than a movie.
Yeah.
If you know what I mean, like an extended episode, which I thought was wicked. Like, it really worked. And I felt like the script was just great for sort of dialogue and the jokes were really, really good. There was a lot of like good one-liners and stuff.
Yeah, that might have been, maybe, it's hard to pick, but that might have been my favourite thing about the film, was the way the characters interacted with each other. We really, really get a sense of these guys know each other really well now. This is the crew, this is, the big dysfunctional family.
Yeah.
Which, is what was so great about the original films and series. I really, really like how much they nail down that, these people are trying to get along, but at the same time, there's still something new to each character. I think every single character in this film has a really, really good arc. Even though some characters obviously get more shine than others, but I think everyone, from the main sort of Enterprise crew, has a good arc.
I think the point of the movie is, in some ways, is that, like a family, you have like the sort of the heads of the family, like
you've got your leaders of the pride.
Yeah, and I suppose like Kirk and Spock in this movie are
the alpha males.
Yeah, basically like they're the ones that everyone follows, that everyone looks to.
Sure.
So their arc impacts what everyone else, impacts their lives as well.
Yeah.
So I suppose as a crew, of the Enterprise, I would agree that they all go on a journey.
Yeah.
Whether they're aware of it or not. And where they end up. Where they end up or where they might have ended up, if they'd gone the ways they wanted to go at the start of the movie, would have affected their lives quite, in a different way. So
yeah.
I definitely agree in that sense. Zoe Saldana, I think you could argue, is just basically a girlfriend in the movie.
Yeah, she's a bit of not a damsel in distress, but she's a plot point at times.
She's a plot point. Well, she's sort of like, she is your way into Spock's mind.
Yeah, sure, yeah.
Because, Spock in the movie wants to think about repopulating the Vulcan
race, yeah.
Because they've started new Vulcan, haven't they, basically?
Yeah, because he wants to... Because early on he gets the news that Ambassador Spock has passed away. And with the news of him passing away, he's like, shit, I need to go carry on his work. I need to repopulate the Vulcan race. I can't do that with her.
I think that had already happened.
It was in his mind, but that kind of solidified his decision a bit, didn't it? So yeah, he's like, I can't repopulate Vulcans if I'm with her.
Yeah,
so
I think he's actually mentioned that to her.
Yeah, so he's a bit mad about it because they say, well, the first time we see them both together, they're like saying bye to each other, aren't they?
Yeah, but she's still upset. I think she sort of understands where it's coming from.
Yeah.
So it's not like in the second movie where they're in arguments all the time. There's domestic sort of unrest. It's more she sort of gets where he's at.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And her role in the movie is more just to be the tough female.
Yeah, there doesn't need no.
There's a lot of her just standing up for herself.
Yeah.
I think her main beats her when she's with Sulu. I think trying to escape that little.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. But that's all she really is. Her and Sulu like a damsel in distress.
Yeah.
They're trying to escape. They can't quite, and then obviously takes Kirk and the rescue mission to save them.
Yeah.
And again, her as character is more. By the end, she's sort of an object that Spock needs to save.
Yeah.
He's like, I can't leave her, and her is the. And it's actually, that's one of the better lines in the movie, though, where Spock's saying, I'm injured, maybe I shouldn't go on this tactical sort of, and saving the people. And he's like, oh, your missus is kidnapped today, and he's like, okay. Well, it's obviously better written than that, but that was a nice little touch. But yeah, she was more of a MacGuffin for Spock than for Spock's development.
His motivations. So yeah, let's look. What do you want to look at? We can get into the plot a bit more now, yeah?
We can get into plot, but so
if there's anything else you want to say.
Well, basically, like in terms of, we've talked about what Spock's wanted to do. Obviously Kirk was a quite interesting thing where Kirk sort of mirrored what Spock wanted to leave the Enterprise and sort of goes back to Vulcan and help his country, help his race repopulate and rebuild itself on a new planet. And Kirk wanted to leave the Enterprise. He just didn't want to be on the Enterprise anymore.
Yeah, he just wants to hang out. He was getting
tired of it. He wanted to find himself. He wanted to stay on the sort of space station.
He wants to take a gap year.
Yeah, he wanted to be a vice admiral on the space station. You know, maybe not shag the same sort of aliens that's on his spaceship.
Same green ladies and blue ladies.
Yeah, so
maybe he wants a human lady.
And there's a wicked scene where they both want to tell each other something.
In the lift, in the elevator.
Yeah, but they're sort of like, let's save that after we've done this little thing, because they think they're just going to go on this little brief little drop. They're going to fly through a nebula to help a woman find her ship that's abandoned or whatever. Yeah, and then it turns out to be
a trap.
Idris Elba. It's a trap. So I love the sort of mirroring of they both wanted to leave the Enterprise for whatever reason. Yeah, but then they were struggling to tell each other. Yeah. Because obviously
they don't want to upset each other.
Well, they're friends, and they realised that they both need each other, and the other one was letting the other one down. Yeah, and they both felt that.
And Bones kept saying to Spock, "I don't know what you do without you." Yeah, I don't know what you do.
Yeah, and it was a bit like, oh. Yeah. So I thought that Chris Pine especially was really good at those bits, because it was the first time we'd not seen him as sort of quippy. Well, we either saw him as like down and out, or fighting and being a hero. In this movie, you see him, he's a bit more down on himself.
He's more layered and,
Yes, at the start of the movie, it's his birthday coming up. Yeah. And he's not really to celebrate it. Yeah. He doesn't really care. And it's like, he has got hang-ups. He's not just this cool, badass quipping machine who gets the girl and
he's just like,
fights the aliens.
Oh, God, I'm getting so old. I'm a beautiful man.
I'm getting old, and I feel like he feels like his body's getting older, but on that ship he's not going anywhere. Yeah. And it's weird, like, because at the end of Starting to Darkness, at the beginning of their 5-year mission to explore and to create peace and all whatever they're doing, I'm really excited about this. Yeah, I am. Just under 3 years, he's it's become lonely. Yeah, and it's becoming a chore. It's becoming an effort for him. Yeah, sure. And he wants to stop doing it. Yeah, and I like that as well. I don't think that's ever really been explored in a Star Trek movie where, even though you've got like a family on the ship and stuff, and you've got adventures, and there's no day's really the same. After a while, that in itself becomes monotonous. Yeah. And no one really. It's like it's like you get a job that you love after about a year or two. It starts to
the novelty wears off a bit.
Yeah, and I really like that idea, and it was sort of told in like this sort of fantastical way. Yeah. So
should we get into some points?
Let's get into some plot points. So
basically they're exploring around, they're sailing around space. They're on their way to Yorktown. Right? Is that the name of the place?
Yorktown's the name of the space station. Yeah. Before that, they have an encounter at the start of the movie where
with the little
but they're a little big at the beginning he's like in like a place, he's giving them a gift, and these aliens look huge and imposing
and scary,
and then he jumped down there very small. But the thing that he presents them is actually the MacGuffin of the movie. And there's a nice little, they put it in a vault and it zooms in on the vault like an ominous way. Yeah. It's going to come back.
It's going to do something.
And the movie starts, dude.
But again, like we talked about this on a previous podcast, but again, I love how we start in the film mid-mission. Yeah. We're straight in there.
It's not even mid-mission.
It's towards the end of the mission, really, I suppose.
It's not even a mission, it's more, they're basically trying to keep peace between two races. Yeah. So it's basically like, will you be friends with these races? Yes. Here's this thing to say we want to be friends. Yeah. They turn up and they don't get it. Yeah. They're literally like that head alien is so like distrusting.
Crazy.
He's like, where'd you get it? Why do they want to give it to us? It's stolen.
Kill him.
And it's just like, we can't work with these people. Yeah. And the twist that they're small is great.
Yeah, it was awesome the way they played that off. But yeah.
So that's the MacGuffin.
Yeah. We're off. So then we're off sailing around space, right? On the way to Yorktown.
And they're at Yorktown. This is an amazing place.
What do you think of the look of Yorktown?
It was a bit over the top.
It was a bit Elysium-y.
It just looked too
shiny.
Just look how they build that in the middle of space. Yeah. And it's so over the top. And even like Bones says, like, look at this. And it felt like it was a commentary on, just government overspends on stadiums and stuff.
Yeah.
You know, and Simon Pegg is quite good at that. You know, and I know he's not responsible for the whole script, him and Doug Young, but
you can feel his fingerprints on it.
It felt like to me that was a bit like the scene in World's End when like they go to the same pub twice because it's like it's a different pub but it's the same.
It's the same look.
It's like star booking.
Yeah.
And it's a bit like you go like every city now has a shopping centre that's got a cinema in it and an ice rink and
it's always the same chains.
yeah, but it's everything's just getting bigger and sillier and under one roof.
Yeah.
And just felt like that just in space.
Yeah.
It was ridiculous.
Yeah.
And it was a bit like Elysium. It was a bit like, it was just mental.
Yeah, it was weird.
And I like the fact that someone commented on how absurd it was.
Yeah, I think that's always, it's always little moments like that. You can either just leave it like that and, you know, if you don't make a comment on it, if there's no character saying, well, this is weird, then if there's no sort of social commentary like that, then you end up leaving the viewer thinking, why are they taking this so seriously? It's a big floaty city that's all in on itself.
It's a big floaty city and they do a lot of establishing how amazing it is.
Yeah.
And then they leave it and you don't see it again until the end.
Yeah.
And all that sort of doing, it's almost like and you sort of get a tour of the whole place, like it's a real place.
Yeah.
It's a bit like Jack and Jill when they go on that cruise.
Yeah.
And literally, like, they show you the cruise ship like a style of like an advert. It's really cynical.
Yeah.
Like, you know, and it sort of does that. Like, this is like a hotel or something they've been paid to sort of promote in the movie. Whereas this is a made-up space station.
Yeah.
And then they just leave it.
Yeah, know? It's gone then.
Yeah, and a lot of movies would have like designed that for so long and spent so much money on it that the whole film would have took place on there.
Yeah.
Whereas this movie is just like it more just establishes the layout of it.
This is a space station.
So later on, when the finale takes place on there, you know, you sort of know your way around it.
Yeah.
I mean, it reminds me of Die Hard in that sense.
Yeah.
And when you see Nakatomi Towers, you sort of you get a tour of it.
Yeah.
But it sort of tells it with the story.
And then when it comes into play later, you're like, oh, so that's there, and that's how they
get
there.
You sort of even though you're sort of lost inside there with Bruce Willis, you still know your way around. Everything you've sort of seen how the building works.
Yeah.
And this sort of did that with this. It gave you a little tour of the place.
Yeah.
And then left it, and at the end when it came back to it, you were sort of familiar with it still.
Yeah.
And how the water worked and things like that.
Yeah, that was really cool.
Yeah, all paid off.
Yeah, that was really cool.
So, yeah, they go to Yorktown.
Yeah.
And that Yorktown, basically, that little stop off is just to establish a few little story elements.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we learn about relationships, we learn about decisions. You see that Sulu is gay.
Yeah.
He's got an adopted child.
Which I liked because, you know, apparently there was a take where, you know, he kissed his husband there, but, you know, do you see George Takei?
He didn't like it.
He didn't like it. He was like, you know, this character's always been straight. He should be straight.
Well, no, but they never said if it was straight or not, did they?
It doesn't. Yeah, but then it doesn't matter. Like, you know, it was in there for literally 5 seconds. It didn't affect the rest of the story. It was literally just.
I thought it was a nice touch.
Yeah, it was just like that's what we've commented before on what makes Star Trek so great is that it takes people from any sort of background you can imagine and includes them in the film. And that's why it is. It's just like people come from all over the shop.
Yeah.
It's kind of all, you know, and be this big, you know, weird dysfunctional family that come from everywhere. So I think the more sort of people you can represent in Star Trek, the better. So I think it's a great move. I think it was great, and I don't think they lingered on it at all. It was literally just one shot of, you know, their kid and his husband, and they just walked off, and that was it. It's not mentioned. He's not seen again. That's it. It's over and done with.
Yeah.
So that was really great. Yeah, you get Chekhov. He's like explaining to a lady like, oh, you know, whiskey. Oh, in fact, that was the end. Was it? He's talking about whiskey. But yeah, he's like you get everyone kind of meeting up with people they know before. Yes, like I said, some relationships established.
Yeah.
Is that where Captain Kirk speaks to the boss lady, and she's like, you know, you can work here as one of the cool guys if you want to be.
Yeah.
And he's, you know. So yeah, and then is there anything else that goes down there? That's when Spock gets the message that Ambassador Spock has passed away. And you see that shot of him. He's on the roof. It's on the roofy bit, and he's, you know, and then he gets this little moment where he looks and it says, you know, Ambassador Spock, and it gets the dates, and you know, we mentioned it in our non-spoiler one, but it's handled really, really well. The Leonard Nimoy Spock kind of thing. It's, you know, it was a really, really nice nod, really, really, really respectful homage. It could have been weird if they lingered on it too much, but I think for me it was a perfect amount. Like we've said before, I think it was a great way of just, you know, Leonard Nimoy would want that. You can't imagine he'd want, well, I want a whole film about me, but instead it was just kind of, was the quiet motivations of Spock in the background, and it never really, really was in your face, but again, it was clear to see how Spock was feeling, how that impacted him, and how that impacted, like, you know, Star Trek as a franchise in the real world, you know, when Leonard Nimoy passed away, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, man. So like, yeah, I thought that was a beautiful touch.
Yeah.
I thought it was a great way to say farewell to someone. Because obviously he's been in the stories, he'd been in the new ones. So it wasn't like it was just in there for no reason.
Yeah.
He was a character that made sense.
Yeah.
It wasn't disrespectful the way they sort of wrote him out of the movies. You know, because he had a good innings, his character.
Yeah, he's been around, hasn't he? Yeah.
But I thought it was great. And there was a nice moment when, you know, him and Chris Pine talk about it.
Yeah.
Him and Kirk talk about it.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
He's like, I'm sorry about Commander Spock.
Yeah.
Ambassador Spock.
Ambassador Spock, yeah.
And that was a beautiful moment.
Yeah, that was awesome. So then, is it on York Station where they get the distress signal?
So yeah, there's a woman, an alien woman, and she is saying that like a ship has crashed somewhere beyond this nebula.
She needs some help.
She needs help to get there, back there.
And lo and behold, the Enterprise is the only one with the best navigation system.
Well, Pine is Chris Kirk.
Chris Kirk.
Captain Kirk sort of overhears this.
Captain
and
Pine.
he sort of volunteers himself to do it.
He's like,
not
yeah,
realising.
exactly. He's like, yo.
We have the best navigational system in the fleet.
Yeah.
So there you go. Well, we find out later it's a trap.
Yeah.
You know, well, they're waiting. The baddies are waiting. And I didn't like it in the trailer, the look of the ships where there were loads of them.
The swarmy type things.
Yeah, but they're actually, there's very like bees, like a hive mentality.
I think when it's explained in the film, it was really good. I think we might have mentioned it in one of our previous podcasts, but yeah, it did look a bit generic. What a lot of blockbusters do now is like this generic CGI swirl. It's a very sort of swirly
I
swirl.
thought it was a bit.
I thought it was kind of like that.
But I like the way it worked.
But in the context of the film, it was really good.
Again, everything that I didn't like about it tended by the end for me to be like, oh yeah,
that makes sense.
Yeah, everything had a context, like you say.
So yeah, the swarm takes them out.
And they have to use a lot of. This is where the movie for me like really excels in these moments where whenever they're under stress, under pressure, when it looks like all is lost, they find a way to escape or whatever, you know, and they do a lot of stuff. They try a lot of different things in those moments.
Yeah.
They run around the ship and some of them are trying stuff. And there's like, you know, they detach the dish of the ship away, so that distracts them from the escape pods and loads of crazy stuff like that. There's a lot of stuff going on.
Something that I really, really love, one of my favourite parts of the film is the dialogue spoken from Captain Kirk. Is you know, so far, you know, when we were in Yorktown especially, he was just kind of bigging up the ship. You know, as we were about to leave, they're like, Enterprise is the only one with a navigation system that's good enough.
Yeah.
And then once they're in the ship, once their ship is looking like it's going to go down, or once they sort of encounter some sort of trouble, he's saying, he's basically gives a talk to the whole Enterprise, and he's like, you know, we're going to be fine, we're going to make it because the Enterprise has something that nobody else does, and that's you.
Yeah.
I thought it was great. I thought it was really
mega.
That was awesome. You know, the way he delivered it and everything. Just the writing of that as well was really, really cool because again, we hadn't. It was a sort of more proof that Captain Kirk, he is a captain now. He's really, really knows. You know, he's playing it a bit more by the book, but not all the time. But he's found his own as a captain.
Yeah, he's like the Kirk from the other two movies is sort of gone, and he's like, you know. He literally is.
He's a leader. He knows.
He's a proper wicked captain.
Yeah.
And he's nothing without his crew.
Yeah, and he knows that.
And a real captain does know that. And a real captain fights for his crew as well, and never lets them go.
So
which has always been a characteristic of Kirk, anyway.
So I really, really love that speech. That was one of my favorite. That was one of the highlights from the film.
It was mega.
Yeah.
So they board the aliens, like the baddies, board the ship, and they're looking for the artifact from the start, which has been put in the vault. And you sort of get a taste of how badass Idris Elba's like bad guy is. He beats the shit out of Kirk, throws him everywhere.
Yeah, throws him all over the ship. Picks him up with one hand at one point.
You get some cool sort of phaser stuff as well. With like, but Kirk and Bones,
they end up together.
Spock and Bones, they end up in an alien ship, don't they?
Just by accident. Yeah.
And they get away. Everyone ends up. You know, in true like Star Trek traditional style,
everyone gets paired off.
Everyone gets paired off, and the place crashes. And we get a lot of sort of establishment of where people are on the planet and what they've got to do, who they're with. Scotty, who hasn't had much to do yet in the movie, he gets paired up with Sophia Boutell's character.
He like crash lands on his own, doesn't he? Yeah, because he like crash lands on his own and looks like he's about to get into some trouble with some like wired people, and he tries reasoning with them.
They're the baddies, aren't they? I think.
Yeah. And then out of nowhere comes Jailer, and we get like a really cool little action piece where she's got the thing that she uses quite a few times.
She's got the Total Recall style hologram.
Makes multiple.
It's multiple. It's like 3 of her or something.
Yeah. So then they all like take out these guys, and it was again a really good set piece. And then they establish their little bond, and she something that maybe half the way through, she calls him Scotty Montgomery.
Montgomery Scotty.
Yeah.
It's like her name's Montgomery Scott.
Yeah.
Scotty.
Yeah.
And she's like,
okay,
Montgomery Scotty.
Yeah. That's the way she said that.
She calls Captain Kirk James T.
Yeah.
Instead of James or Kirk or she calls him James T. But yeah, there's some cool moments like that.
So yeah, they're teamed up.
Sorry, go on.
Uhura's been she's
Sulu.
crashed into the like prisoner type. They're basically been taken prison by Kroll.
They've actually been captured. She, if you remember,
was in the pod with
before
him.
they go down. She saves Kirk.
Yeah.
Because Kirk's, well, not saves him, but she presses the button, shoots him away, and he gets away, and she gets stuck with him.
Yeah.
And he's like, "Why did you do that?"
Yeah.
And she's like, "It's my captain."
Yeah.
You did the same for me.
Yeah, that was it.
And he's like, and there's a lot of sort of you humans are fools and those kind of speeches.
But he kind of, he has a massive beef with your weaknesses, your unity, and the good guys are like, no, that's our strength. Yeah. There's a lot of back and forth with that.
There's a lot of like, he's very resentful of humans, thinks they're stupid.
Yeah.
Thinks they're idiots.
Yeah.
He thinks that conflict instead of peace is the way that the world should work.
Yeah.
And I like that stuff. I did like that stuff. And again, it wasn't great at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And as we get around to the end,
yeah,
it all makes sense. And I think there's some wicked cyclical dialogue, some cyclical exposition.
Yeah.
And the storyline really ties itself up together really well. And whether you like the choices they make is not really matter. It's airtight in its own logic.
Yeah, definitely.
Which I thought was great. So you've got Spock and Bones.
Yeah, that's great stuff, man.
And Spock and Bones together is probably my favourite part of the movie.
I could have watched 2 hours of those guys together, man. They were absolutely great, because when we found out they crash land and Spock's been quite badly injured, he's got like part of the ship escape pod stuck in him.
Yeah, it's nasty.
And the scene where that whole scene where Spock is kind of again, he's talking about Vulcan organs and he's not really sure, but then he's like, and then he pulls it out.
He basically says like, "Isn't your heart near your liver or something?" And he's like, "Actually," and he pulls out the thing.
Yeah.
And he's like, "Sorry." Apparently, like they say that it doesn't hurt. It hurts less if it's a surprise.
Yeah.
And earlier he said horse shit, and he was like, "I don't see what horse excrement has to do with it."
Yeah.
And then he's like, "Yeah, to use the parlance of your like thingy, like I think that theory is horse shit."
Yeah.
And that was a big laugh in the cinema.
Yeah, it was great.
It was a great joke.
That was really funny, man.
But Bones for me is the standout this time. I thought
so good at that, man.
Carl Urban was fantastic. Proper
scene
fantastic.
especially was so good, man.
Just all those scenes, because he has the scene with Kirk at the beginning when it's Kirk's birthday.
Mm-hmm.
And he makes the jokes, takes the piss, but then he also,
he's his mate, and he's
and he has advice, and he has good insight, and he has that with Spock later on, and he, he's very observant with his criticisms, and but he also obviously observes human behaviour, and he understands people better than he lets on.
Yeah.
He comes across as a grump, but he's actually quite soulful. He's got a lot of like beautiful things to say.
Yeah.
And it was just a great performance.
Yeah, definitely.
And I think Bones was always the underrated one anyway in the original, because you've got the rest of the characters, but the three of them were always like the three that always had the main story beats.
Yeah.
But everyone always took away the sort of Kirk and the Spock. And people sort of forget about Bones. But if you watch even like the Undiscovered Country, for instance, it is Kirk and Bones that are trapped on the alien prison. And what another thing that the movie explored with Bones as well very well is whenever someone's hurt, he literally can't help but try and help them.
It's just he doesn't think about it like
whether they're good or bad. He has to try and sort of like save to try and help them.
I think it was really early on as well. We passed this part, but I think it's the first time we meet him. The shot we get is Kirk's just kind of got onto the ship after he's been chased by those tiny little monsters.
Yeah.
And he's walking towards the camera. It's like a long shot, and he's on a conversation with Spock, who's to his right, and to his left is Bones, and he's not saying anything.
He's just trying to do that.
He's like scanning him. He's like making sure he's okay, like looking at his wounds and things like that.
And that's what he always does.
Yeah, it's really really cool.
It's wicked.
So
yeah. For me, like he's proper having a ball, and his dialogue is excellent.
Mm-hmm.
And I've said this about Captain America: Civil War, and I'll say it about this movie. It felt like they really got the characters.
Yeah.
What makes them tick, what they would say in every situation, and get into that. So we got Chekhov and Kirk have been stranded together.
Yeah, with the
alien lady,
who needs their help.
And it turns out she's full of shit.
Yeah, because
she's a mole.
They basically go to the crash landing site of the Enterprise. They go inside the ship, and this is a moment that made both me and you go, oh. So he goes inside this little compartment where he says he's hidden the little MacGuffin. He basically
she says, he goes to get it. He opens up the compartment, and she's like, do you believe everyone that gives you like a sob story?
Yeah, and then she like kicks him in the face.
But there's nothing in that thing, and he's just like, not every story.
Yeah,
and then Chekhov's behind her.
Yeah,
and them two have like unspoken. I don't know at which point but there's like an unspoken thing where they've just trapped her.
Yeah,
just called her out.
Yeah.
And him and Chekhov have just been like, just proper like jinxed her out.
Played it, yeah.
Oh, it's sweet.
Yeah, it's so good. It's such a good.
We're both like, because when Chekhov turned up as well.
Yeah.
Because at first, like, Kirk had fooled her.
Yeah.
But then it's like, Chekhov was in on it too, man.
Proper played her.
Yeah.
It was wicked, man.
And the two of them together.
Yeah.
And just the dynamic for all the pairings was great.
And there's a little moment after that where Chekhov was like, well, at what point did you like suspect her? And he said, not soon enough.
Yeah.
Which is really, really cool. That was really, really nice of him. So
it was awesome.
So at that point, is it when like Kroll's men kind of turn up and kind of have a little shootout and they kind of get away?
They have a shootout, and they blow up that part of the ship.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's it. Yeah.
And
Chekhov's like shoot that point, and then they have to get out of there, which is really cool again. Yeah.
Yeah, and this is the one part of the direction of the movie because Justin Lin did a great job, man. I'm really surprised at how well he did, actually, to be honest, without sounding too derogatory to his skills, but I was surprised. But that bit when the ship sort of falls, the disc of the ship falls down, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And it squashes that decoy lady.
Yeah.
She gets it just desserts.
Yeah.
Which I thought was awesome.
Yeah, it's great.
But it was very dark. And you couldn't really see what was going on.
Yeah.
That was the one shot. I just felt like it was like the shit was falling. It was so dusky, man. Yeah. And I didn't like that. I gotta be honest with you. I remember thinking like, I can't really see anything.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. It might be that might be something wrong with the projector or something at the time. Who knows? But it just felt like that scene was a little bit too dark. So we sort of see that Sulu and Uhura are trapped with Idris Elba.
Yeah, we kind of have their little, the Uhura and some more Uhura and Kroll back and forth,
Well, they escape though originally and get caught again.
Oh yeah.
And there's a wicked callback because at the beginning you hear just in like an indirect piece of dialogue that Simon Pegg's like little buddy. Yeah. He's got a cold.
Yeah.
And his snot is like
it's like acid.
Like acid. It's like alien blood.
Yeah.
Like a xenomorph blood.
Burns through little gate type thing.
And it cuts to them and you just see like a chew and then like the snot burns through the door and it's like good work.
Yeah.
And they sort of escape.
Yeah, that's cool.
Was wicked.
And he was like, that is one hell of a cold, and that's really cool.
And there it's established that Idris Elba can like use electric sort of powers on people.
Well,
he's sort of getting good.
That's pretty much what it is that we learned that he's pretty much been trapping people and bringing them down to become more powerful whilst he devises a plan to take down the Federation and things like that. So he's basically just got two members of the Enterprise, like the people that we don't know, and he basically just puts, from what we see, all he does is put his hand on their head and he drains their life force and it makes
he makes his face start doing weird stuff.
Yeah.
And when you see him next, he's actually lost all that some of that crust on his face.
He looks less monstery. He starts to become more and more human every time he does that thing.
Yeah, he becomes more. You see like there's something underneath and it's more just Elbury each time.
Yeah.
But at first he's like a big, like almost like a seashell.
Yeah, it's proper massive face, massive
really
crust,
hard.
Massive,
reminded me of the sort of like the people that work on David Jones's ship in Pirates.
Yeah, he did look like one of them. Yeah,
like
that's
sort of turned into like a sea creature.
Yeah,
turned into a mollusk. So this thing is going on. There's multiple threads. The timeline of which I'm not too sure, but you sort of see that Jayla and Simon Pegg, you see that they both are good at knowing things about inventions. And he sees that she builds stuff, and she actually lives on
the USS Franklin.
Yeah, which is a spaceship that disappeared like years and years ago. It's like the third or fourth Starfleet ship ever built, or whatever.
Yeah.
So there's a motorbike on there. There is a
sound system.
Yeah, they've got like music on there from like
classical music. I still love that they call it classical music.
Yeah,
it's really cool.
and you see there that there's an establishment of there's another ship that's been crashed in London. No one knows where it is. It went missing.
Yeah.
Which I thought was cool. But you sort of see the plot starting to thicken with how they might be able to escape.
Yeah.
But also, there's a lot of talk about the transporter.
Yeah.
You know, and it's sort of broke. It wasn't meant for people. It was meant for cargo.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of Scotty trying to fix it,
trying to make it a bit more modern,
make it for people to move. You know, and he can't make it as amazing as and he keeps modifying it.
It gets to the point where I can only do 20 at a time, isn't it?
Yeah, that's sort of like the apex of what you can do with it.
Yeah.
But what I think is amazing is just that, again, we talked about it, that the engineers speak.
Yeah.
The wicked stuff that's sort of it's almost exclusive to Star Trek, or it was.
Yeah.
It's just the maintenance and the technology and making things better.
Well, it is really cool, because we at that point we are about to meet Kirk and Chekhov walk into one of Jailer's traps.
Yes.
And that's when they all kind of meet, and that's a really funny little cool moment when they all meet and stuff.
Oh, it's like a
gooey,
foam.
Hard foam, yeah.
Traps you inside.
And then it all breaks like glass.
It's well funny when they're stood inside it.
Yeah, it's really funny. But then, like you were saying, the science talk. What is really cool is that little triangle of Chekhov, Scotty, and Jailer, all talking about like changing things, altering them, making them work in a way.
Brainstorming.
It was really, really cool just watching those three kind of bounce off each other. I think.
Yeah.
And then at that point, they kind of devise a plan to. They work out, how is it that they work out where because Spock has.
Earlier on you find out that. Well, Spock and Bones find their way to Kirk and that like.
Is it the necklace that?
But basically, she's wearing like a Vulcan necklace, Vulcan rock.
He gave her as a present was it in a previous film?
We don't even see it. I don't think it might be in the first one, maybe, but I'm pretty sure it's just. I know she gives it him. She tries to give it him back.
Yeah,
that's how they establish it.
Vulcan tradition to take a gift back or whatever.
Yeah, and she's like, okay. But anyway, she's wearing this necklace and look for this kind of rock.
Yeah.
And it's like, why? It's like, it's very rare. Only on Vulcan, so basically it's literally exclusive.
It gives off like a radiation that we'll be able to track down, basically.
Yeah, and Bones is like, so you basically bought her a tracking device.
And he's like, no.
It's like, you've made it sound worse than it is.
That was really cool. I really like that.
It was nice. It was a really clever idea.
So then they work out where Kroll's base is, and they devise a plan that, they need a distraction. And they're going to try and get people to a point where they can basically take them out 20 by 20, so have the whole crew there. So the plan is, and then, we've obviously seen Kirk look at the motorbike, the little dirt bike, and he's like, that's when he's like, oh yeah, maybe I've got a plan for a distraction. And then we get into the rescue mission, and we see... Well, the first thing we see is Kirk kind of riding in there, and you're like, okay, yes, it's pretty, because that was kind of one of our gripes with one of the trailers before. Is like, why is there dirt bikes in this?
Yeah.
But again,
our first ever podcast.
Yeah.
We talk about the trailer, and I'm just like, the dirt bikes were, and you were like, shut up, but don't be too worried about dirt bikes. I'm like, yeah, but why?
And then we but then we find out that there's a backstory to that dirt bike, and Kirk had heard the story is about that there was a dirt bike on that ship, and he's really, really sort of geeking out about this bike, which is really cool because you can tell.
He used to have one though as well.
Yeah, he used to have one. Did you ride one the first one, or he's driving?
It's definitely similar.
Yeah. So it's like that. So obviously he's really excited to see that. So then the plan is he's going to go in there, drive around, distract some people, whilst we can basically get them out 20 by 20. So then he goes in there and gets someone attention, and you see people start shooting at him. And again, something that did catch me off guard is that they shoot a man and it goes through him, and then you see about fucking 20 of them, 30 of them
hologram
driving around, using Jailer's technology.
And also the spray as well. Creates walls.
Yeah, it was really, really cool. That was awesome. So he's driving around getting that Kroll's army's attention, and Spock and Bones go in there to kind of help him get out.
Well, yeah, Spock doesn't want to at first. He says,
he
says that Bones and Chekhov, and is it Bones and Chekhov should go?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah,
and he's like, I'm injured, I won't be optimal, and he's like, your girlfriend's there, and he's like. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's wicked. So there's like a rescue mission. and it's a pretty cool set piece.
It's really awesome.
And you've got like J-Lo has like a kung fu fight, and
she has like a scrap with like Kroll's right hand man, which is a pretty.
Is it supposed to be? Is his name Mantis or something? Or Mantis?
Sounds
or
right.
Mantus.
Yeah.
But like that, that's you never know that guy's name, but I'm assuming it's that same guy that killed her dad.
Yeah, because she tells a story about them killing a family or something.
It's basically she doesn't want to go back there. She escapes. She doesn't want to go back.
That place of
death. They do horrible things.
Mm.
And again, these are things that they tell you about them, which is cool. You know, they say show don't tell, but I would have liked to have seen more of that.
Yeah.
You know, I would have liked to have seen more of what they were doing there. The backstory just didn't feel fleshed out.
Yeah.
For Idris Elba and his cronies.
But I think the backstory, as cool as it would have been to see some of J-Lo stuff, I think it still did a really good job of making you care about the J-Lo character.
Oh, for sure.
I think it was a really good job of like that.
Everything worked enough. For none of it to sort of fall flat or fail for me. There was no.
Everyone's motivations were clear.
There was a few things that weren't nailed. Like I say, there was a few beats that weren't proper. Like they weren't clean hits. So to use a silly weird thing to say, but everything was like say everything had a context, everything had a reason, everything had a logic.
Yeah.
Never really defied it. They use that. They get back on the ship, and they can't fly it, can they? They've not really thought that far.
Yeah.
They've rescued everyone.
Yeah.
And then they fly from their bees and they're going to go and attack the Yorktown.
Yeah. So then they're trying to get away, and then there's the whole thing of we have everyone apart from J-Lo.
Yeah.
And they're like, Kirk, get back to the ship so we can get out of here. So Orly's tries to get out of here, and then Kirk has a moment where, do I go back to the ship or do I help J-Lo?
Yeah, you can't leave her behind.
And then he's like, I've got to go help her. Which we have like again a really really cool set piece where he kind of drives around. He's driving around, gaining up speed. And he like jumps off a ramp, and then he's like, Scotty now, and then J-Lo like kicks the dude, jumps off the building, and they touch hands, and then
they both
get transported there. Yeah, it was really cool.
That was a wicked. I was like, oh,
yeah, that's really cool.
But yeah, so the ship doesn't move. The Franklin, it's like
Yeah.
So they jumpstart it, and by jumpstart it they mean they push it off a cliff, so it has no choice but to try and float.
Yeah.
Because that's the problem, isn't it? It's like getting it to alleviate on its own.
Yeah, yeah.
So they basically they
throw it off a cliff.
They can go forward and backwards on land. They just can't take off. So to make it take off, they drop it off a cliff, and then that jump starts the sort of the elevation process. Yeah, which was great.
It was really cool.
It's a cool shot where it goes out of shot
and comes back up,
and it's been done a million times.
Yeah, it's always cool to see though.
But in a sci-fi movie that sort of it celebrated sci-fi as well as Star Trek sort of tropes. Yeah. If you know what I mean. And it felt like as much as the film was a celebration of the 50th anniversary of Star Trek, and it was a Star Trek movie and all that kind of stuff, there was just a really strong sci-fi movie, and it's really embraced other things and other sort of tropes from other movies, But that was a nice little moment.
Yeah, that was great.
So then they have to figure out how to defeat the bees. Yeah. And they're in a lesser ship than before.
Yeah, then the Franklin, not the Enterprise,
which is
a
crusty old ship that's like 1,000,000 years old.
It's a lot smaller, isn't it, as well, than the Enterprise? Like it's not got the firepower.
It's got nothing. It's got a few bits and bobs.
Yeah, yeah.
But it's not meant for that. So they, and then this is for me, this is the highlight of the movie, and not the actual execution of the plan, but the coming up with the plan. Yeah. So the movie is literally it's running at breakneck speed. Giacchino's score is pumping.
Oh yeah, it's awesome.
The editing is quick, cutting to everyone, and there's red alerts, and there's, and basically, they're a hive mind, and they're running from like an algorithm that keeps them all. They communicate and they shift together.
They keep saying the term. They keep using the word like bees and like beehive mentality. And
but they realize that there's like a signal, like an algorithmic signal that they can hear. It's how they communicate from ship to ship to move around together.
But earlier on in the film, they thought their like communication frequencies been jammed, but then they work out that it was just their way of communicating, which was like crossing path with their frequencies or something like that.
Yeah. So they actually fire it, hits the Enterprise and stays on it, and she's like, we've had our signal jammed. It's like a weird, but that's actually them communicating
with each other,
but with like an algorithm, because there's so many of those little B ships. Yeah, that they need some sort of mathematical sort of design. Yeah, and some sort of form of telepathy almost. That's scientific in some way. So they deduced that if they think of a frequency to disrupt the algorithm, they'll get disjointed and won't be able to fly together anymore. Yeah. So they come up with using radio waves, which is obviously something that's very much an Earth thing, but the ship has been established earlier on through Public Enemy, Fight the Power, that she can play radio and listen to music on the ship.
Old school hip hop.
Yeah, so yeah, they use the radio signals to disrupt the pattern.
Yeah, and get them all confused.
Get them confused.
So they can let loose on him.
Well, they basically they fly into each other and just blow each other up.
Yeah.
And then she puts on Sabotage.
Yeah, and as soon as it
by
kicks,
Beastie Boys.
and then cuts to Captain Kirk saying,
That's
"Yeah,
a good choice."
good choice." Yeah.
And you, as they were deciding what song to put on, you whispered to me, "It's going to be Sabotage in it." And I'm thinking like, they're not going to go with Sabotage, surely.
It's a bit obvious.
It's in the trailer,
Yeah,
and it was a bit. But it was a clever little hint in the trailer. I thought they'll probably just go Fight the Power.
Yeah.
Because it was like a space battle.
Yeah,
Fight the Power. But then, yeah, like Sabotage kicks in.
Yeah. I really liked it.
And a lot of people said to me, you know, it's a bit cheesy, a bit silly that they sort of kill. They use music to kill the bad guys. And this is the problem. Like, they don't use music; they use the radio frequencies.
That was just it was just like the way they used the radio, but at the end of the day, it was the radio.
That's it. Yeah, they generated radio frequency by playing the music.
Yeah.
And the music had to be loud and bombastic and
like sound disorienting
to disrupt the algorithm to make them, you know. So it actually made perfect sense.
Yeah.
And I suppose having Sabotage, you know, which is a crazy callback to the first one, which is a bit over the top.
Yeah.
Maybe it could have been any song.
Yeah, sure.
You know, I mean, it would have made sense for me. Maybe at the start of the film there was some sort of weird song on Earth that was popular, and then that's what they played at the end as like a future song.
Yeah.
You know, you know, a bit like Everything Is Awesome from the Lego Movie.
Yeah.
But then I suppose we need to identify with it. But yeah, the Sabotage comes on, and the ships start going crazy, and they can take them out. I got
goosebumps when it all kicked in. I thought it was really, really great.
The only problem was they edited the song down.
Yeah.
So I would rather have the scenes. I'd rather the whole song had played.
Yeah.
That's my only criticism. But when the song breaks down to the boom, it's like, wow.
Yeah.
That bit just makes them all just fly into each other.
That was awesome. That was so cool. Yeah.
And I mean, put a smile on my face just thinking about it. It's a great scene.
Yeah,
man. And if it wasn't for the fact that the engineers speak, which is my favourite bit of that scene, is how they come up with the idea to do that.
Yeah.
Explains exactly how it would work and why it would work. Justifies the sense of like, we'll kill them with music, which some people would simplify it and boil it down to that in their own head.
Yeah.
It's like, you weren't paying attention.
Yeah, that's not what happened.
Yeah, and it's quite a brisk, breezy movie. You know, a lot of character study and not necessarily loads of crazy plot twists and stuff. But in the movie had enough plot twists and enough clever stuff happen in it to satisfy everyone, I think. And I really, really loved that. I thought it was great. I thought the way that it was set up in the movie later on with Public Enemy and executed at the end with that, I thought it was amazing.
Yeah.
And then it's not over.
It's not over, Joe.
We've got a set piece at Yorktown to get through.
Yeah, we do.
And the movie's established all that stuff at the start.
So what I'm trying to remember now, because I've been confuddled. What's the point where we learn about Kroll? That's got to be coming up, right?
It's literally around that time.
Is it after this?
So Kroll's gone missing.
Yeah.
And they know he's got like his ship into Yorktown.
Yeah.
Hasn't he?
Yeah. He's kind of like, because didn't the Franklin crash?
You've been watching footage of the Franklin.
Yeah.
Of it crashing.
Yeah.
And you hear a voice and you don't see who it is.
Yeah.
And then Uhura, in one of the few things she actually does in the movie, she watches more.
And she's like, oh shit, what's going on there?
And it turns out that Idris Elba was the captain of the USS Franklin.
So then do research on his name.
Yeah.
They find out who he is. And they find out he's Captain Locke, don't they?
Yeah, and he was a beast soldier. And
he's like a proper bad man.
But he's literally just...
He was a bossman.
He's a proper sergeant bossman.
Yeah.
So yeah, he's been stuck on there for ages. No one came to help him.
I really liked that video. I think I think that was really great.
It was big.
Yeah, the way he delivered it was really cool.
But yeah, I think whatever was on that planet managed to
change him.
Yeah, and keep him and his crew alive and turn them into what they were.
Because he says in the log, he's like, you know, there is an alien technology here that I'm going to use to come mash you up, basically.
Yeah, and he's like, I need to find a way though.
Yeah.
Yorktown is obviously near enough for them to invade it.
Yeah.
He finds out about Yorktown by the Enterprise even going there.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
And it's just basically been baiting people there until Planet Rose.
Yeah.
It took like all those years to do it.
Yeah.
Which I thought was awesome.
That was great.
But yeah, you see that he was a human, and this is why he hates humanity. He was a soldier. He was a really great soldier. They'd made him like. They scrapped war and wanted all peace.
Yeah.
Put him on the Franklin, he got lost and got stuck.
And they were like,
left there to die.
Like, nah, he's probably dead.
He was so far into deep space there.
Yeah, it's through the nebula and everything.
Yeah, I think he went through a thingy, didn't he? A black hole or something.
Yeah.
I think that's the idea.
So everyone was on Yorktown were like, nah, he's dead. He's dead. He's not coming back. So then he's got all sour about it. Which, I think again...
Well, Yorktown's not even there. Yorktown's brand new.
Yeah, so again...
The reason he's invading Yorktown is just because they've built it near him, and he can finally exact some revenge. No one... Like, Yorktown wasn't even a thing when he was, like, stranded there. It was so early in the day. But this is the problem. It was like he was sent away on, like, quite an early mission.
Yeah.
Out of his depth, because at the time he was a war hero.
Yeah.
But I love the fact that he was he basically all he knew was how to fight.
Yeah, that was it.
And peace was sort of wasn't what he was about.
But as soon as peace took over, he became irrelevant, which is what helped contribute to his craziness.
With that and the fact that he got lost and no one could save him, he was like, "This is what peace has got me."
Yeah.
Yeah, and and he spends a lot of time on that.
Yeah, when I was at war, I was fine. I was looked after. As soon as there's peace, I get stranded.
Yeah, he's just basically got a lot of reasons to have his head mashed up.
Yeah,
which is what he really has, hasn't he?
Yeah.
And we get some cool stuff. We get some chase sequence through Yorktown with spaceships.
You only see him from the back of the head for a while. He's like stumbling through because he's had like a crash landing.
Yeah,
in Yorktown, so he's like stumbling through, holding his side.
Well, he's been generating, hasn't he? He's been getting younger.
So he looks even more human.
Yeah,
but still
a bit weird.
He's still got a big head.
Yeah, it's you can sort of see Idris Elba in there a little bit, but not completely.
Yeah.
And he looks really good.
That to me, that was my favourite stage of that character when we see him like that, where he's half human, half.
I'd rather have been like that the whole way through.
I think that was when he's at his most interesting. That's when every line he delivered to me was completely on point. He was really, really nailed it. The
thing is, as well as his skin becoming more human, his vocabulary and stuff did as well.
He was clearly spoken, but there is that point where he's kind of having this argument. He's kind of shouting at Kirk, and the venom in his voice and the way he's kind of spitting as he speaks. I was really, really into. I thought it was really, really well done.
He's pure. Like. He's really well driven in the movie. He's really pure. He's pure angry, and I like the fact that he's not. You can understand why he's annoyed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it makes sense.
Then the fact that he's, this soldier out of, that was made irrelevant in his own mind, that's not even really a part of the reason why he should be angry. He should be angry because he was made captain of the ship, and then he got lost and no one could ever find him.
Yeah. And
the war stuff actually has nothing to do with it. It's just that in his head, like, combat is so intrinsic.
Yeah.
That the only way he can deal with it is by getting furious about it and exacting his.
Yeah, that's all he knows. Yeah.
But I love the fact that the story overall was quite a human story.
Mm-hmm. That's to me what was so great. What was at its best was when it felt very personal, felt very intimate. It felt very sort of. Into Darkness, it had those things, but it felt massive in scale. This was like they were like world-ending events. This one, again, Yorktown's the only thing that's really at risk. But
at that moment, he's building his way across the galaxy to try and get revenge.
So,
overall.
But I just loved how personal his motivations were, and it was made personal for him. Like right at the end of his catalog, he was like, "Yeah, I'm coming for you right now," because that's what's going to happen.
Yeah.
So he ends up in some sort of. They end up in that weird anti-gravitational thing where they have to follow the broken glass because the gravity in Yorktown's all weird and messed up. Yeah,
it's like swirling around.
Yeah.
But basically the MacGuffin is going to, like, he basically vaporizes people.
Yeah.
Turns them into smoke and they vanish.
Yeah.
He wants to send that into the middle of, like, the air supply.
Which is going to do it to everyone.
And that will just do it to the whole thing. And that means that they destabilize the gravity.
Yeah. To try and throw him off a bit.
Yeah, and there's like a fight between him and Kirky. And at one point he's like, "You've lost. You can't get up there now."
Yeah.
And he sees the gravitational field.
Jumps off with it.
They both follow it around, which I thought was nice.
That's cool.
There's some cool sort of anti-G sort of 0G sort of fighting.
Yeah.
And there's one big sort of more push for Kirk to sort of say, "Don't do this." He tries to appeal to humanity.
Yeah.
And just for a second,
it looks like he's going to break through to him.
He's like, "No."
And he's like, "No, shut up." Yeah.
And then he goes for it. And it gets defeated.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's basically what happens.
It looks like Kurt's going to fall into the fan, but then he gets saved.
And Spock and
Bones help him out.
Yep, he gets saved by his boys, and everything in that movie, we've just basically recreated the whole movie there, and everything in there it paid off in some way. Everything that happened throughout the movie,
absolutely.
And that was the ultimate payoff. He's about to fly into deep space.
Yeah,
and he gets saved. by his main boys, and then you get like a surprise birthday.
We get a surprise birthday party. Nice little birthday party for old Kirky.
It's nice. And jailer gets like a
an honorary badge.
They say to her, "You join Starfleet.
Yeah,
come and join our crew."
Chekhov's become the ladies' man. Now Kirk's the captain, and he can't bang his crew anymore.
Why? Who's he banging that scene?
Well, we first see him. He's been kicked out of some girl's room right near the beginning. Do you remember?
Yeah, at one point he's checking out a girl,
and then right at the end he's like, "Did you know Scotch was invented in Russia, whatever?" Yeah.
He drinks Scotch, doesn't he?
Put the moves on her.
He drinks Glenfiddich.
Yeah, because that's what they find, isn't it? In
he's like, "Swipe this from Chekhov's lager," and he's like, "You want to be a vodka guy?"
Yeah, so Chekhov's putting the moves. He's on the ladies,
but everyone's there. It's Kirk's birthday.
Even when there's little monsters from the beginnings there, in a little cardigan, right?
And they're running after it. Yeah. That was weird. So Spock and thing, they
have their little moment. Yeah,
have their moment, and everything's going to go back to normal. They're going to, he doesn't take the job as vice admiral at the Yorktown. And for some reason, I forget why you see a photograph. Is it in Spock's belongings?
It's in Spock's belongings. He has this little,
Ambassador Spock's belongings.
That's it, yeah. And he has like a little card. It looks like, and he slides it up, which reveals the original cast. Of the.
And I think that photo is from the Undiscovered Country.
Yeah.
I think it is Star Trek 6. I think that's where the photo's from.
And you've got the whole original guys, but in the full costume.
And there's maybe a couple of minutes to go in the movie, but the whole time I was just trying not to cry.
Yeah, that was beautiful, man.
I was really, literally cool. Just.
And that's the point when Spock realizes, like, no, I want to carry on his legacy. He was part of this crew.
This is what his life was.
This is what I need to do. Yeah.
But then he became an ambassador when he got too old to do that.
Yeah.
And the thing is, a Vulcan's life is quite long.
Yeah, they can live a lot longer, can't they?
So
he was probably like, whilst I still can do this, I need to do this. When I'm too old to do this, maybe I'll think about, carrying on with the Vulcan business. But right now, I belong here on the Enterprise.
Was there not I've seen Back to the Future far too many times. I think it's Back to the Future 2.
Yeah.
Where if you see yourself, it's like a paradox.
And the world destroyed. Yeah.
Like, I'm surprised when we saw that photo. Like, everyone just vanished. I remember seeing some of the photos. Like, is that right?
The photo started fading away.
He meets himself, doesn't he? In 2009, and you're like, I was worried then. Like, shit, what's going to happen?
Maybe it just changed the timeline. He walks back into the room and William Shatner's there instead of Chris Pine.
They're all just really old.
Yeah.
It's like, you're old like us. He looks in the mirror.
Just changed the timeline.
He's like, no.
Everyone's got blue skin in this timeline instead of, everything's weird.
But that was, it was beautiful. But also, I thought about after, should that be good? Like, he sees himself and his friends as old people.
He's broken all the rules of time travel.
He's just ruined his the surprise of his life. Like, all the surprise, all the sort of growing all together. He's just seen that. He's like, I've seen all I need to see. This is what I might as well go. But
he's got the space almanac.
Go to Vulcan 2. Yeah. So there's a nice little moment between them two. Mm-hmm. And Scotty at the end, he puts his arm around Jayla, and I think at some point I thought Kirk was going to steal her off. But them two seem like they've got a nice little friendship, which I thought was sweet.
And then the whole time they're like looking up. You can see them all looking up off camera. They're looking at something, and then one by one they all join, and they're like looking at something.
And it's the Enterprise being
rebuilt. And we get the Enterprise being rebuilt, really fast motion, and then we get the space final frontier, and they all speak a line each.
Yeah, and that was too much for me.
You didn't like that?
No, it was just... I know.
I got you.
I had to basically wipe the tear off my cheek before you saw it.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Yeah, it was a celebration for a series of this kind of Star Trek. Is just, whether you like it or not, you've got to respect what it's done. What it's done, not say just for TV and for film, but the fact that it's survived so many iterations. A lot of failures, a lot of hit and misses.
Yeah.
But also
50 years, man.
Yeah, and also just the boundaries it pushed. Chekhov being a Russian guy in the fleet, and Thomas Cold War,
and
black woman,
a black lady is really really main character is awesome.
Even in this one, they tried to. I think that's what this one tried to do with the Sulu being gay. It was almost like they're still trying to push the envelope now.
Yeah.
In a time when this is probably the right. It's not really a big deal anymore to be homosexual. I think it's why George Takei probably resented it. Maybe when I try and think about it from his point of view, was maybe it's thinking, well, this gay marriage is a thing now and stuff like that. It's not a big deal. Why are you trying to use that as like a thing?
Yeah.
But I thought it was a great touch, and I thought it was a great way.
I really liked it. Yeah.
Just a way to keep pushing boundaries, I suppose.
Yeah.
I can't think of none of the Avengers or anything. I'm a gay couple with a kid.
Yeah. No.
I didn't see the harm in it. and I thought it was a nice little tribute to George Takei himself, which he obviously
didn't like.
Yeah,
I was like, no.
Yeah, and I think that's just some people don't want to be pandered to.
Yeah, no.
People are defensive, aren't they?
Yeah.
Especially about things like that, their beliefs.
Yeah. Sure.
Why put that in there? I didn't get it. What was the point of that? And it's like, well, I see the point.
Yeah, I thought it was really
I thought it was nice.
Like you said, like we mentioned earlier, it's all about diversity. I think that's what's so cool about.
That's why it's lived so long.
Yeah.
And I said it in another podcast, but this is why for Fast and Furious, despite the fact that it's throwaway garbage for most of it, it's just there's a multiracial cast. Yeah. It spans the globe. It's a very inclusive franchise.
Yeah.
And that's what Star Trek is. And it's unites people of everywhere. It's like a language that people can speak.
Yeah, and if it, like you said, if it carries on pushing the boundaries, then it's going to be around for another 50 years. If it keeps doing what it's doing.
I think it doesn't have to push any more boundaries. It just needs to make sure that it keeps on flying the same flag.
Keeps on keeping on, man.
You know what I mean? Yeah. And is it Discovery's coming out soon? Which is it's a Netflix unoriginal.
Netflix, yeah. We've got Star Trek 4 in the pipeline.
Star Trek 4. Chris Hemsworth's going to be back.
Who's an Australian.
Just a little correction from another. I think we referred to him as Tiberius Kirk, which is actually his father's name, I believe.
Okay.
Chris Hemsworth's father's. We'll just find out what his name was again for me, because I do know it, but I forgot.
What, Chris Hemsworth's character?
Yeah. His last name's Kirk, obviously, but
William Shatner
Kirk.
William Shatner Kirk Hemsworth.
But on the whole, I really, really recommend it to people that love a good sci-fi movie, a good sort of action-y movie. If you love the first two of the reboots, George Kirk played George Kirk. If you love the reboots, then you're going to love this one. I think it's the best one out of the three reboots.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I would say it's in the top 3 of any of the Star Trek movies. For me, it's up there. It's not as good as Wrath of Khan, I don't think.
No,
from
Wrath
first
of Khan's
looking,
still the best, right?
But Wrath of Khan's still incredible.
Yeah,
I really like The Undiscovered Country.
Yeah,
and I really like Star Trek First Contact as well, which is an excellent movie. But no, this is up there, man. For me, there's not a lot of great Star Trek movies. I think that's the thing where, as a TV show, it's probably more successful.
Yeah.
That's more of it. But I think with Simon Pegg and Doug Young and Justin Lin, if they can, if these kinds of people with this kind of talent stay on with the franchise, then this movie could one day make a classic that could be up there with a Star Wars or a 2001 or whatever. But until then, I'm happy that this is just a really, really great sort of birthday present.
Just a fun film, yeah, definitely.
To people that love Star Trek.
Yeah, I really recommend it a lot. I think it is probably one of the best summer blockbusters we're going to have this year, and one of the best sci-fi films we've had in a long, long time, in the last 10 years, I reckon. It's right up there with films like Looper, things like that. Ex Machina for me, it's right up there. So I thoroughly recommend it. I think, like I said right at the beginning, you don't have to be a massive Trekkie to watch and enjoy the film. Like, I've seen the films, I've seen parts of the series. So there might have been some nods in there that I didn't get. Like I was reading into the massive green hand reference. Yeah. Apparently that's a reference to an episode, isn't it? Where there's like some god that kind of convinced the ancient Greeks. They were just aliens, but they convinced the ancient Greeks, but they were gods. Yeah. And once they realised that the Greeks went into it, they buggered off. But there was a guy there that could like project a massive green hand.
That's right. Yeah.
And apparently during the end credits, you see the massive green hand.
You see a lot of things in the end credits that references to old ones.
So again, it's really cool that it's cool to if you're not a massive Trekkie, there are things in there that you can dig around after, like I have, and had a look into it and be like, I might go watch the episode when I get home. I
think the plotting of the movie and some of the dialogue, as fans of like the Cornetto trilogy and stuff, you can see where Simon Pegg has chucked in little things that things that you might not have spotted first time that you'll spot over next time around. Yeah, a bit like The Simpsons, like that's how he models a lot of his writing.
Yeah, I want to see it again after this chat, definitely.
But a lot of the dialogue and the character and exposition, the way it's done, the way it's dealt with, is some of the best I've seen in a film, in any film, for a long, long time. Yeah, the way the story pushes itself and perpetuates and doesn't cheat on its own logic. It belies its sort of summer blockbuster tag, if you know what I mean. Idris Elba, Zoe Saldana, I think they can maybe look back on this film and think maybe this is not their best work, and not necessarily their fault. Would have liked to see those two characters especially get some more shine. And I think the Idris Elba character, his backstory should have been explored a bit more.
Yeah.
It was a brisk film, like hour and 50.
Yeah, it wasn't that long, was it?
Another 10-15 minutes.
Yeah.
Flesh out that bad guy, make him worth watching.
Yeah, definitely.
I think you've got close to a masterpiece on your hands.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I really agree. I think, I'd have liked to have seen, whether it be told through flashback or whether it was more captain logs or CCTV. I was like, those are some of my favorite parts of the film where we learned more about this character, because
just the way he interacted.
Yeah, the more we learn about him, the better a villain he was. Yeah. I really think so. So yeah, I definitely agree. You could have added another 10-20 minutes of exploring his background, exploring who he was before he was Kroll, quote unquote. And yeah, like I said, I think you got pretty close to a perfect sci-fi film, man.
Yeah, I think one thing I would maybe have changed was just the fact that, like Jayla mentioned the underling, and she sort of fights that person. You assume it's him.
Yeah.
But yeah, like it was just Idris Elba on his own with no one to really bounce off. So you didn't really see them lead each other.
Yeah.
But then I wonder if that was a choice in the sense that he's the captain of that ship.
Yeah.
And he's basically just led it.
Yeah.
He's just basically the isolated captain that Kirk was maybe seeing himself as when he was thinking about dropping out.
Yeah.
I don't know if that was on purpose or not.
Yeah, two sides of the same coin. There was one moment I remember where, I'm just going to call this guy Mantis, whether that's his name or not, I can't remember. So there is that one moment where, the Enterprise, back to the sort of rescue sequence where being teleported off on my one, those two guys kind of realise what's going on, and Kroll's like, what the shit, this needs to be stopped. The Mantis guy's like, you go finish the mission, you're the captain, you're the leader, I'll finish what you're doing. And again, it was not undercut, but it was hinting that they obviously have a really, really loyal bond, that this guy's going to risk his life even if it means Kroll can finish the mission.
It kept like a mystery element to that, and it twisted when you found out who the guy was. So maybe that needed more fleshing out, that sort of mystery part. But I would have liked to have just seen that sort of alternate sort of side of, like, he's got his underlings and he's got his trusted sort of servants, and he's this wicked captain, that's going to lead his own people to something.
A victory,
but something like that, just to give it a bit more, just because a great villain is, in a movie of this kind where it's good and evil, the villain is as important as the bad guy. Sometimes even more so. But it explores the characters that we love in Star Trek, and it doesn't. The problem is, though, Saldana, everyone gets fair crack, and her as anyone who maybe gets shortchanged. So everything else is great about it. So I don't want to be too hard on it. But there's just a few little 10 minutes here and there, maybe just a little tweakaroo. And you've got a great movie. But as it is, it's a great movie, and I'm really happy that it is, because the trailers didn't really sell it.
Yeah, no, I agree. The trailers didn't do it justice at all,
and the marketing was quite muted. But here we are, man. We're proper happy to have seen it, man.
Yeah, super excited. I want to see it again tomorrow. I might go do that. I'm going to see the Jason Bourne tomorrow. I've decided.
The Jason Bourne.
The Jason Bourne. So I might even triple bill. I might do a Star Trek Beyond, then the Buffager, then the Jason Bourne.
The Buffager. You know what? Just before we go, I told, because I was with the kids, we're on the bus to the BFG, and I called it the Buffager.
Yeah.
I didn't realise how relevant that joke would be to kids that go to school and not long learnt to read, because obviously they sound out letters before they,
What does that say about us, that we're still finding it Buffager funny?
Well, when we said Buffager, we never really laugh at it, though. We just call it a Buffager, just to be contrary, just to be douchebags.
Just because we're alternative.
Tell that joke to a 5-year-old. That's comedy genius. Buffager, I see what you did there. Proper.
I like this joke, guy.
I like you, man.
I like you.
Sounded out the letters.
You stick around.
See what you did. You smart ass. Wise guy, eh? So go to the Facebook page if you like this podcast, and like, share.
Star Wars Beyond.
Comment. Let us know what you think to the movie. Let us know if you agree with anything we've said. Go on Twitter at Star Wars Podcast. Follow us, tweet us, retweet the shit that we put on there. Just support us, man. Go on iTunes, go on Deezer, go on Podbean, Podcast Addict.
All of them at one time.
Yeah, at once. Just have 4 separate tabs and play us simultaneously. If you play this, if you wait 10 minutes and press play each time on this podcast, it actually tells a different podcast. The words all merge.
Yeah.
And we talk about
a secret message.
We talk about the Wrath of Khan. And it's for exactly the same amount of time.
Yeah. So it's a podcast within a podcast.
Yeah, and if you wake up and all your family are dead, that's nothing to do with us.
Yeah,
we're trying to figure out what went wrong with that.
I don't know what happened.
Yeah,
we got to get Scotty in for that one.
If maybe don't do that yet. Maybe wait till we works out the kinks. There's a few little bugs we need to iron out. But no, thank you for listening. Facebook, Starjust Podcast, Twitter at Starjust Podcast, at @grand_smash if you want to speak to me personally. Last time we said to boldly go when no one's gone before, and we ended it.
Yeah.
And before that we said, was it engage?
Yeah.
Or make it so?
We need to get more Star Trek references.
Otherwise we're not going to be able to end this podcast anytime soon.